Hi, welcome to Leap Taken. This is Mika, and here at Leap Taken, I talk about all things witchy, craft related, law of attraction, manifesting, esoteric, and everything else in between. And today, I want to talk about generational curses and kind of just share my thoughts on, dealing with my own, and hopefully it's inspiring to you if you feel that you are dealing with generational curses. And I almost want to think most of us probably are, but here we go. All right, so generational curses, what does that even mean? Okay, so I'm going to start off with my non-belief. I remember a few years ago, it wasn't as long ago, I remember my sister saying something to the effect of, oh, well, I believe in generational curses, and she was, giving her information to support why she felt that way. And I remember being very dismissive. I'll be honest. I was a bit dismissive, like, oh, I don't think any of that. I listened and I said, I don't believe any of that. I don't think that's true. I think you make your own destiny, your own fate. Basically, what has been passed down, or what you perceive to have been passed down, you can break it and move on. So therefore, there is no generational curse, because once you believe that, then it's over and done with. And part of that, I still believe has validity. But the rest of it, not so much. So let's talk about cursing and what that means as a curse. Basically, this is why I have problems with generational curses, or the belief in generational curses. I didn't like the term curse. I didn't like what that meant and what that stood for, and that sort of bothered me. So therefore, I didn't want to. I didn't accept it. To me, if I didn't accept it, I didn't acknowledge it, it's not really affecting me. Again, part valid, but not quite. So that was my hang up, the word curse. I didn't like what that was. To me, it felt like so permanent. When we say generational, it felt permanent. It felt like it's something I'm stuck with. And I feel like if I do the work, or if I do whatever I'm supposed to be doing, I live the correct way I'm supposed to be living, that doesn't affect me. So what made me change my mind? So I'm telling you, kind of my headspace on where, up until just a few years ago, where I kind of stood on this. It wasn't, it's not that I didn't believe others when they said, they feel there's a generational curse within their family or within their bloodline. I did believe them. I felt like not just me, anybody could be above that. So I'll just say that. That's how I felt. And I'm just looking at my notes when I look down here, because I'm kind of wanting to stay on track with this. I have the ability to go on tangents. So anyway, so what made me change my mind? Well, honestly, that conversation I had with my sister after the fact is what made me change my mind, because it challenged me to think about this a little bit more than what I had been thinking about it. And once I allowed myself to really sort of open myself up to thoughts, and what do I really believe, and what do I see, what's real, what am I seeing, and then how do I feel about that? So that led to one thing after the other. And I was like, wow, okay, so I do get the generational curse thing. I see that now, and I can see what at the time my sister was seeing. And I was still right in that, yes, they can be broken. It's not to be perpetuated. It's not to be passed down with each generation. That only happens when you're not aware. So what is it? And I'm going to speak in general, because I'm not gonna go into a whole thing about what is my generational, or what generational curse I feel I'm linked to, or specifically what my sister was talking about. But I will touch on something that I think a lot of people relate to, and that's just overall dysfunction. And there's a causation to why there's dysfunction, especially when you talk about African American families, or any, I'll be honest with you, families that are, have a history of being a part of being colonized. There is some issues. People of color, basically. So African Americans are definitely unique in this case. So generational curses are going to look probably similar throughout our families. Again, I'm just going to classify all that comes with dysfunction: abuse, beatings, spankings, all that sort of stuff, to the point of abuse. And this is not an anti-spanking type of thing. I'm not saying if you spank somebody, your kids, that means you're part of a generational curse. That's what I mean. I'm speaking kind of really high level, general, but if you break down the curse of believing that's the way to handle parenting, the curse of dealing with single mom, baby daddy, baby mom, broken families, the curse of the teenage pregnancy, the curse of within the groups, there are some, the males perhaps, who struggle with reaching a certain level of education because it's interrupted because of crime, being punished for crimes or crime, misdemeanor, drug charges, things, all that sort of stuff. All of that, where you're seeing, it's like, it's not just your cousin, it's your cousin, it's your other cousin, it's your brother, your uncle, it's your mom, your aunties, your grandmom, and you're seeing a pattern. And then, you go back to a certain point, and of course, you go back so far, we didn't have freedom. But when you unpack a little bit more, okay, so what did that look like? As far as, were they still exhibiting some version of what I'm seeing in modern times now? And then why is that? So you unpack that sort of stuff. And you understand, okay, I understand where this is coming from. I understand why that is. That's not to continue the behavior, and that doesn't make it okay. And by no means does it give you an excuse. It's giving you a reason, a causation, a reason the certain behaviors are there. And then why is it passed on through each generation? Why is the broken home thing being passed on? Why are there so many head of households run by never married black women with children? Like, why is that after all this time? We understand why it was happening. We understand what caused it. We understand the effects of it. Yet you still see it continue. Some people consider that a generational curse. And then there's other types of dysfunction that also goes through. There's more. Some people, alcoholism, I'm not saying I'm speaking outside just African American communities, but some people would say alcoholism or or addiction, we'll just say addiction in general, is a generational curse, especially when you see it being like sort of passed down. It makes you wonder, is it in the DNA? Is it, what's going on with my family or, my bloodline where I'm seeing this so much? And then the horrible effects of it, the dysfunction that arises from out of addiction. So just a broad overview, generational curses, okay? Kind of when people are talking about that, that's typically what we're talking about. Again, high level, very broad speaking. So how do you break the curses? Is it possible to break the curses? The first step is recognizing it. It's not to go on a rampage within your family and, be mad at all your aunties, uncles, and your grandma about, why they perpetuated, the dysfunction or the horrible things or whatever it is. That's not what we're doing. That's not what this is about. We're not blaming anybody. That's because a lot of people are acting in ways that are, it's being validated by society, not just the family, by their society, their culture. So it continues. It continues. So it's bigger than just your immediate family. It's your neighborhood. It's, it's the person that they work with. It's their boss who understands their situation because, you all have that situation. They've seen it, we're all seeing it in each other. We're all seeing, certain things being repeated. It's like on a cycle. It's a loop. We're in a loop with certain behaviors. So recognizing the behaviors, the dysfunction, recognizing it. I didn't say condemning, recognizing, which goes into my next thing. Once you recognize, expect to process through shame and guilt, especially if you've participated in the very thing that you identify as generational curse, a curse, and with it, if you've perpetuated, especially if you know, or someone, you know, or you've been actively doing it. I'm not even going to talk about somebody who's older. If you're actively doing it and you're thinking about it, like, well, shoot, I'm part of the problem. Me too. You know, it's not just them, it's me. I'm right there with it. Now, how do I undo this? And why did that make sense to me? And then the shame that comes with that, and the guilt that comes with that you partake into that behavior, and it made sense to you, and you went with it. So, yeah, process it. Don't run from that. Don't do that, because then if you're avoiding processing shame and guilt, all you're gonna do is start to find ways to point the finger. They say when you point the finger, all the other let me get this right. When you point your finger, all the other fingers are pointed at you. So, but you are only focused on that one. So be careful, because that's when you start, blaming great grandmom and granddad for what you think the horribleness they brought continued into the family, and they should have known better, and maybe your mom wouldn't have known, or your father wouldn't have known, and it wouldn't have been perpetuated down to you. We're not doing that. That's not what it's about. That's why you need to process your own personal shame and guilt about the entire process. This is part of breaking the spell, by the way, recognizing and then processing through that. The other thing is seek therapy of sorts. Therapy is not necessarily sitting down with the actual doctor, a therapist, psychologist, psychiatrist. If that's something you'd like to do, take it a step further and do that, or it's something you feel you need to do, go ahead and do that. I'm an advocate for that. Mental health is, is everything. So do that. Otherwise, I said of sorts. Therapy comes in different forms for different people and for different reasons, why you need it or want it. So therapy could be meditation. Therapy could be watching YouTube videos. Therapy could be music therapy. There's aromatherapy. There's all different types of therapy to help you sort of process and not just move on, but sort of organize your thoughts in a way that you can handle that now. It is what it is. It was what it was, but you're here now. And these are your thoughts and your feelings on a situation now. Now, because I am Mika and this is Leap Taken, I'm going to take this a step further. Witchcraft, part of your therapy. Witchcraft is definitely part of your therapy. Rituals. I talked about meditation. Oh, by all means, step it up several notches. Create brew a special tea that takes you to, metaphysically speaking, to a certain place. You're looking now for specific type of teas, depending on with the emotions that you're dealing with. The goal is not to mask, hide, or smother that. We're trying to just put it out there and then do something with the emotions, do something with those feelings. Not just empty them and get rid of them. No, we want to process them and then fold them up nicely and put them where they need to go. Put them over here because that's real. That's a situation that occurred and it's still occurring around you because you're working on yourself. You still got other family members who are perpetuating the same generational curses. So you need to work on you. So you still need to hold on to that because you need that to deal with them. So fold it up nicely, put it in a pile that makes sense for you. Okay, we're done with that. Put that in the hall closet, move on. Okay. Move on to the next thing. We don't need to keep looking at the same mess. We don't need to just keep perpetuating it, sharing it, pouring over it, just continuously talking about it under the guise of healing. No, do something with it. Express it how you want. And when I say tidying it up, I'm kind of using all these different examples and euphemisms, but basically, for some people, that's going to be something they do as they perform a ritual. A ritual could be candle spells, for sure. Like I said, brew some tea, put your magical intent into it, which is to heal from this, to release shame and guilt. So we're doing a couple different things in this ritual. You're also going to want to invite in new experiences because we're trying to take out that from the forefront and kind of create a new narrative for yourself. So this is a time creating a new narrative. In my mind, and I'm doing a ritual for this, take kind of that little literally. I would get a new notebook, because why wouldn't I get a new notebook? A new pen, and I would write down my new narrative. How do I want to think going forward? How do I want to approach life going forward? Write that down. That is your 10. You can take those pages, keep it in that notebook. You can sage that notebook before you even get started. You can run it through incense. You can put crystals on top of it and pack it away. Maybe you only write once. Maybe it's just a piece of paper you write down and it's more like in a letter form. Maybe you burn it. Whatever you want to do, however you want to complete this ritual, make it make sense to the emotions that you're feeling. If it's overwhelming feelings of shame, guilt, and maybe anger, I'm thinking a burning ritual for sure. If it's sadness, if it's still shame, of course, but there's concern or fear that you don't know how to stop perpetuating these, or being a participant, I should say, in repeating the same dysfunctional cycles, that's when I would say do the notebook and write down, because you want to maybe come back to that because you're going to be still processing that maybe a little bit longer. So just some ideas as far as ritual and therapy and all that sort of stuff. Oh, and the other thing is seek out a coach, a life coach. I don't have a problem with a life coach. Of course, you got to be careful, guys. You got to be careful with who you pick. A spiritual coach, if you prefer, someone that provides spiritual coaching, counseling. So you know how I just kind of hurried through talking about rituals. So they would know you a little bit more. They would know your story. So a spiritual coach is going to be very specific about your situation and your practices, your beliefs, what you're open to. So they'll give you something more specific as far as rituals and things like that. So that's something to think about. Another way of sort of just, okay, so let's say you're not doing all that, but you're now becoming aware. You're watching this video and you started thinking about it like, yeah, I am perpetuating some generational curses, I don't realize I'm doing it, but because it's not suiting you, your family, your culture, the part of society that you belong to, whatever, it's not really supporting a healthy outlook or view of you guys, it's not advancing you forward, so, we should probably stop doing it. Declaring that you want to be different. I have heard this often throughout my adult life. In my late teens too, I used to hear people say, I want my children to grow up different than me. I want them to have more than me, be better than me. Great things. I subscribe to these thoughts, by the way. You want the next generation to do better, be better. Declaring that is not enough. I'm speaking from a witch now. Just declaring something isn't enough. It's kind of like when you do a spell. You can do the spell, but the actions supporting the spell, staying in alignment with your intent, is very important as well. It's all one big thing. It's not so much just to light the candle, like the incense, drink the potion, and you're done. No, act like it works. Act like you're supporting it working. So what does that look like? Well, you've got to be better. You've got to do better. You've got to be an example. It's kind of like I grew up in the crack epidemic, when in the 80s. I was coming up during that time. I was kind of young because, let me think. So, yeah, mid-80s. I was only like 11. So I was watching my friends, kids I went to school with, I was watching their moms, like, they lost cut like a lot. I'm not talking one or two girls in my class or boys in my class. I'm talking quite a few people. They went into foster care during that time. Whole group, little boys that I had crushes on, that were older than me. They were just, little crushes. They just sort of disappeared one by one. They got arrested for selling drugs. It was really a tumultuous time, because it was affecting, users and sellers and the neighborhood and the violence that comes with that. It was a situation. And you would hear, or not you, I would hear, I remember hearing coming, so that's, I'm painting a picture here. So fast forward more into my teenage years, I remember hearing that. I remember people's mom, like different moms, sadly I wasn't around enough dads, but moms, saying, oh, y'all need to be better. I'm over, I'm with my girlfriends or whichever friend at the time, and you would hear mom or grandma saying, y'all should be doing this and y'all should be doing that, and I want you to be better, do better, and especially when they're trying to warn us not to get in trouble and basically fall through what they fell through just years before, or what their daughters fell through years before, because we got grandmothers raising us at this point now. Those words were nice and we understood them, we received them, but when I think about it, you got to show it. You got to show better if you want somebody to do better. You have to be an example. So my generation, I know a lot of my friends went and literally repeated the same thing. So now it's what, the late 80s going into the 90s, and they're all getting high. it just repeated itself. I'm not laughing about it. It's just the irony, because it's like, well, they told you to do better. Why didn't you just do what they told you? Because they didn't show us better. So you have to just, you can't just declare, you have to do. If you want your kids to be better, you have to show them what better looks like. You don't know, find out, because you're making demands on children, on young people, or whoever, to learn and to do better, but you haven't shown them. So they're just going to repeat the same cycles of dysfunction, whatever they be. Unfortunately, that's how it works. As a parent, trust me, with adult children, there is no such thing as just do what I say. Don't worry about what I do. For the parents fooling themselves out of frustration because they took some left turns and they should have went right in life, and the kids saw it, just be honest with your kids within reason. You don't have to tell all your business to your kids, and you don't have to make excuses. What you do is you come clean about, I made a mistake, I made a wrong turn, and you were affected by it. I'm owning, I made a mistake. I made several mistakes. And look what it cost us. Look what it cost me. I don't ever want you to feel that way. And you go into a whole thing. I don't ever want you to be on the other side of this trying to explain to your children, don't make this mistake. And here's what I'm doing, by the way, to not make those types of mistakes ever again. It's a whole thing. Like I said, this gets really deep. That's why I talked about therapy earlier, because you might want somebody to guide you a little bit more. Therapy, again, comes in different ways. So if it's a coach, spiritual coach, if it's just meditating with your ancestors or deity, and you trust wholeheartedly in the messages that you're receiving, and it's a clear connection, clear communication, do your thing. If that helps you get through, that's fine. For me, having a relationship with my ancestors has been therapy for me. It has been very helpful in solving problems and handling stress and handling anxiety and all types of issues that have come up over the years of all sorts, all natures. So, yeah. And then finally, I guess the last thing I just want to say about this is, if you are someone who feels like you don't recognize any generational curses, you don't see any direct line of dysfunction throughout family, or like I said, your bloodline, if you don't see something negative, because when you say curse, it's typically negative, if you don't see that, that's great. I don't want to say that it doesn't mean there's nothing there, because you could be in full-blown denial and you just haven't tapped into that yet. That's possible. Get a reading. I'm not asking for you to dig to find something wrong in your family. No. But is it possible? Is it possible that maybe you are in denial? Because you got to be careful. We keep talking about the family members who are passing. You could be said family member. Somebody else is doing the work of trying to break it, and you don't recognize it yet. So be gentle on yourself. Get a reading, kind of reading of what I'm going to say a tarot reading because that's what I would do, but to kind of, you want to maybe create a spread that is a little bit more helpful for you, breaking down generational curses and what is it that you need to look into or to avoid and so forth and so on. That would be something I would suggest because I think a lot of us are dealing with this and a lot of us are struggling with how to break it. It's really interesting how we all perpetuate it. Not all, but you know what I mean. A lot of us who do have this issue, how we fell right in line with the very thing that, looking back on it, like, why did I do that? Why did I become a single mom, in my teens? You know what I'm saying? Because you had unprotected sex. Yeah, but why did I do that? Well, I knew I knew I could get pregnant. Why did I do that? Or why am I like, the rest of my, the women in my family and I, pick an abuser or, men that leave us or, why do I kind of, link up with these types of abuser, loser type of people? But my mom did it, my auntie did it, my grandma did it, and they have such a negative view of men now. And this is not just one race, this is not even a racial thing, I'm just talking in general because I think we've all seen this kind of stuff play out, and it does make you wonder, well, what is going on? Why is that happening? Yeah. Those, one might classify as generational curses, so hopefully, you learned a little something from this. Hopefully, if you are someone who is totally oblivious, you do a little bit of digging and because I it's not that so much I was oblivious, I just didn't think it affected me. And I'm glad that I sort of, took off, let my ego down a little bit and explored a little bit more because that was super helpful to me in understanding. So hopefully it is to you too, because that's ego, by the way. You got to be careful with that. Being very much an Aries sun sign, that's something I have to keep in check. So thank you for watching. This is Mika with Leap Taken, and please like the video if you enjoyed the content, and go ahead and subscribe if you have not already. I'd appreciate that very much. And if you have subscribed already, again, thank you so much. I really do appreciate that. All right, bye.